Welcome to the Game of Thrones Iron Podcast, Episode 3, Season 2 Recap. I'm here with Rose Snow, bitch of Westeros, leader of the Red Vipers Bannerman. Hi, Ro.
Hi.
And then we got Sean Pike.
We do not so.
We do not so. And I'm Mike Blackfire, and today we're going to do a recap of Season 2 of the Game of Thrones.
All right, guys. Well, let's get going. We got 6 topics today. So the first topic is Season 2 introduces a lot of new, interesting characters. So for you guys, who was the most interesting new addition of Season 2?
I'll go first. I am a very big fan of Shay. I've mentioned that in the past. I really love her character. I like her demeanor in the show. Again, you know, similar to Arya, very tiny but very strong. And definitely by far recall my favorite scene with Shay as being the one with Sansa, where unfortunately Sansa becomes a woman and gets her friend, as we call it in women world,
And Flo.
and Tilly Tilly comes to visit Sansa, and she gets blood in the bed and immediately obviously tries to destroy the evidence of her reaching womanhood to be able to see a Lannister. And Shay is there and starts to show Sansa she can be trusted, I guess you can say. And one of the, I'm not sure who the girl plays, she's pretty much a nobody in the show, and she notices the bed covered in blood and sees this secret that's being hidden, and Shay chases her down the hall. She pulls a knife and says, you didn't see that, you're gonna forget that happened. And then, of course, when she returns back, there's the Hound. And now we've got no choice but to tell Cersei.
Was pretty gangster of her, the way she's like, you didn't see nothing.
Right.
Such a likable character in the show.
Right.
You know, her relationship with Sansa is sincere.
Right.
Her relationship with Tyrion is sincere in the show.
Right.
Whereas in the book, not so much. In the book, you kind of get the feeling she's just doing it for the money,
Yeah.
and that you don't like her. Whereas in the, and we'll see how that plays out in Season 4, but you like her in Season 2 and Season 3.
Well, let's not forget that at some point Littlefinger does try to pay off Shay, and she doesn't take the bribe. So I guess in the show, they want to show that somebody could genuinely love the Imp, despite his, disability. And it's an interesting, circumstance how, Shay ends up being put in with Sansa, and how that the dynamic of that works. So, that's definitely my plug for my favorites is definitely Shay in Season 2.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Red Woman, the Melisandre. The introduction of the Red God, this whole new religion comes in, and she's kind of like the main representation of that Far East religion of R'hllor, the Red God. She's really, I like the way that she doesn't, she's just such a faithful, she's so into what she believes, and she really thinks that she's like the crusade of this religion, and and it starts off with her burning all the idols and everything, and I just think she's really interesting, and very mysterious the way she comes in and everything. I like her character.
One thing that I can say about Melisandre is you see a lot of the women in the brothels and whatnot get plugged a lot, and how it's a very sexual show and whatnot. But I have to say, I think Melisandre shows a beauty in a way of a woman that is absolutely stunning. I think the character as a whole is done so well in a makeup standpoint. With this burgundy hair and this burgundy robe, and very attractive. I feel that Melisandre is one of the women in this show that really doesn't get enough hype when it comes to beauty. I mean, Dany is, in my eyes, a kid. The brothels, they're prostitutes, but Melisandre just doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion.
The character kind of represents this this womanly beauty and this like womanly power, to the point that like men are afraid of the power that women have over them, sexually, reproductively, and she kind of like represents that, which I think is really cool. And a part of her character, like she's so mysterious, and her and the Red Priest have different interpretations of their religion, and it adds to her mystery, and she's an interesting character.
That is a good point, Sean, because, it's always been said in the world of women that with women, we can give you a stare that, that will take you down just by us looking at you. And I think Melisandre represents a lot of that. She will kill you, and you won't even know it, kind of thing, just by...
Right. She even says that, I don't know if that's season 3 or 2, like she says, if when you slaughter a sheep, it shouldn't see the blade, and like she's just like that type. Like she'll take you while you're not expecting it. How she does the whole Gendry thing,
right?
Where she's basically having sex with him, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's getting leashes on the the.
Well, that was the whole point. Is she wasn't looking to get lucky. She was looking to get him erect to put the leech there. That was the point.
Is that what it was?
That was the point.
And you don't know if she is a true follower of her religion who believes her religion is good, or you get this demon like Mephistopheles thing from her. Is she in league with the White Walkers or something? Is she part of the forces of darkness and manipulating Stan?
How authentic is she as a Red Priestess?
That's that's the interesting thing about that religion too. Like you look at it, fire, all this like rebirth, and it's almost like demonish. And obviously that monster, that, the Vag monster that came out of her, like that doesn't seem very, like a, an angel coming out of there. You know what I mean? But at the same time,
Melisandre did that to prove a point. Not to give birth to a demon. She was trying to prove a point when she did that.
Well, I don't know. I think in her mind it was using this magic that her God gave her to further Stannis's cause, but it's like...
She was trying to make a believer out of Sir Davos.
I don't know if she even cares about Davos.
Like, part of her thing, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the darkness serves the light because there can be no darkness without the shadow of the light. I think she makes a comment.
She says that
to one point, and very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go with Davos Seaworth, who we've just kind of mentioned. I love Davos as this, the Onion Knight, this really relatable character. Like, none of us are nobility. We can relate to Davos because he's not a noble. Obviously, Stannis made him one, but he's an everyday, average guy. He is, in a show of complicated characters, he is an uncomplicated man, and it's refreshing to kind of see that. His loyalty to Stannis, unquestioning, even when he knows Stannis is doing the wrong thing, or he knows that Stannis is not going to be successful. And in a show where you have people who loyalty is a turn of the page, he's refreshing.
Yeah, I love Davos. I think that's a great point, Sean. I mean, he's just like you said, that everyman, that very basic character, and he... and like his whole thing, like how he's so loyal to Stannis, even though he chopped his fingers off, and he even keeps him so interesting. Like he keeps the fingers around his neck to remind him of his smuggle, that it was lucky, that the gift that Stannis gave him. He's so like appreciative of Stannis. He even tells his son, "Don't worship the Red God, worship Stannis. If it wasn't for Stannis, we'd still be, in Flea Bottom."
His relationship with his sons is interesting because. We talked about the Lannisters and the family last time.
Right.
And Davos is different. For Davos, it's not the family. For Davos, it's his children. It's his sons. And that mentality is different than a lot of the leading families of Westeros.
We also see his vulnerability when Stannis' daughter, who is locked away as a leper, is teaching him how to read. Where all these other guys are, polishing their swords, and he's down in a dungeon learning how to read from a small child. And I think that there's a point to be made there.
His relationship with her is part of his humanizing.
Right.
She's got the grayscale. None of Stannis' other bannermen go near her.
Right.
But to Davos Seaworth, who has probably seen it all, she's just a little girl who wants somebody to play with her and spend time with her.
Right.
And you really, kind of like for similar reasons, you like Ned and you like Jon Snow.
Right.
You like Davos.
Right.
Yeah, and and Davos is very what was that he's just loyal. I don't know. I forgot my thought, but God, when he's such a good character. That's what I was gonna say. That moment when Stannis says, "When I take the throne, you'll be my hand," and you could just see, like, it was such a moment. Like, it really touched me. Like, it was just like, man, this guy came from nothing, and if Stannis wins this war, he's gonna be like the most powerful man in Westeros. And I just felt that was so interesting that, like, just a regular person. I don't think that's something that happens back then. I mean, maybe nowadays you can make something of yourself coming from the gutter, but that was a very rare thing, and just like a real great moment. I felt like I really was rooting for him. I almost wanted Stannis to win the war just to see Davos be the hand.
Yeah, right. For a character like Stannis who is so unlikable,
Right.
because Davos likes him, it makes you think maybe there's something to Stannis. All right, topic number 2. This whole season, everyone wants to slap Joffrey. That's an unquestioned thing. But in season 2, at what moment did you most want to slap Joffrey?
Okay. Well, my least favorite moment of Joffrey is definitely when Tyrion and Varys are speaking. They're walking around, and Joffrey comes up and starts talking about,
The direwolf must make her presence in every
right.
podcast.
I forgot to introduce Bella, direwolf of House Blackfire. When
She's actually a Stark.
that's debatable, but when I was saying something there, right?
Varys, Wall.
Right, Varys and Tyrion are walking, and then Joffrey comes up and starts talking about some other thing that has nothing to do with the fact that. And Tyrion's like, "Listen, did you know we're about to get invaded like tomorrow by your uncle?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not worried about Stannis, Uncle Stannis or whatever." He said, "If he comes near me, they say Stannis never smiles." And then he pulls out his little blade and he's like, "I'll give him a red smile." Such a dork. I can't stand that kid. I think that was a great moment, like, where you're just like, come on, Joffrey.
It shows he's a kid who doesn't understand what's going on.
I mean,
He's
Stannis
a spoiled little rich boy.
is like a million times the warrior that Joffrey. I mean, Joffrey couldn't even take the butcher's boy over there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, we definitely saw that in that scene. But I have to say, mine is similar. Is basically how Joffrey is this torturous, mad king, so to speak. And when they have that saying, when the going gets tough, and when the Battle of Blackwater began, Joffrey was basically hiding behind his mother.
Right.
He was definitely afraid of his own shadow at that point. Not so tough anymore. Seems to like to pick on women, but when it came down to the battlefield, he was definitely looking for the, oh, does my mother want me? She calling me? I think I hear my mom calling me. I gotta go.
Yeah, what happened to the red smile now?
Right, like praying that his mother is looking for him so he can run to her. So it was just like, yeah, okay. This kid is obviously a real asshole, but I think that definitely shows his character.
I like when early on in the season, you see the scene in Sir Merentrance beating Sansa for Joffrey, and Tyrion comes in, how can you disrespect your queen, dishonor her? And he's like, I have no respect for traitors. And then there's the exchange, you remember the exchange better than I do, but there's the exchange between the two of them where Tyrion totally insults Joffrey. And you get this idea that Joffrey is just all bluster. He's got no power, and his uncle, the imp, can kind of put him in place.
Right. And he says, I'm not threatening the king, I'm educating my nephew, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you see that with Tyrion. When we're talking about Joffrey slaps, Tyrion gets quite a few in there.
Right.
I mean, I think he slapped him, I don't know if it's 5-6 times. I mean, there's actually a YouTube video.
There's parodies
of Joffrey being slapped for 2 minutes straight.
Right.
It's very entertaining.
By Tyrion.
It's funny, none of us brought up and I thought you were going to bring up when he tortures the prostitutes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I actually almost mentioned it before, but I didn't want to jump around. I tend to do that a lot. But that was definitely a scene of all scenes with Joffrey, was, Tyrion sending the two prostitutes, and they're doing their usual little giggly thing, and shit like that. And here comes the torture scene. And I mean, I have to say, I've read a lot of books in my day, and I've definitely seen the news, and that was like, wow, that was a wow moment, you know, and hit her harder, and now take this thing. I mean, how do you not die from that, you know? And
it's weird because his parents are not the most likable people, and I include kind of all three of his parents, you know,
right.
his uncle, who is his father, his not real father, and his mother, but none of them are him, right?
Sadistic.
None of them are the depravity that he is, right?
Right.
And it makes you wonder where that come from.
I don't know. I guess I'm gonna blame Cersei. I think Cersei implanted in his head that.
Mom?
Helicopter. I guess. Yeah. Well, was that refers to like hovering over?
Right.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, not only that, like the way that she teaches him, you know, whatever you want, hon. You know, you're gonna be the king. You could do whatever you want, and like she's implanting that there's no moral values because you're gonna be the king. And I feel like, and not only that, watching Robert run around and do whatever the hell he wants as the father. You know, and too bad Jaime wasn't more of a role model, because Jaime probably would have been a better role model than the two of them.
I'm not so sure that I agree with that standpoint.
Well, I'm just saying. The reason I'm saying Jaime is because he actually commits to something. He's he's got honor. We find out later on, and he commits to the King's Guard, and he has some kind of a
more in control of himself,
right.
At least.
Like,
well, I think that Cersei makes it clear, and Joffrey shows it in that scene with the two prostitutes, that she's made it clear, Cersei, I can't control him. So I don't know if it's so much as her just spoiling him. She can't control him. So she doesn't really spoil him. She just has no way of keeping him at bay, even as his mother. Nobody can. You know, nobody can seem to interject that. And if there's probably maybe a shot in the dark, it would have been with Jaime Lannister, who, you know, you can't exactly tell Joffrey, you know, that's your father, you have to listen to him. So there's that theory, you know.
All right, we've kind of touched on the third topic, but for Tyrion, this is where he becomes the Hand of the King. This is where he does a lot of cool stuff, where he becomes a leader. What's your favorite moment for Tyrion? I'm going to go with Joffrey starts the riot, right? When they throw the crap at him, and he gets all indignant and orders people killed. And I just like when Tyrion comes in, you know, slaps Joffrey upside the head, takes leadership of the situation, you know, controls Flea Bottom. We get another great moment that comes out of it with, you know, the Hound going to save Sansa. And it just shows that Tyrion's in control. You know, he's controlling, despite what we just talked about with Joffrey being spoiled and out of control. He's controlling the situation despite Joffrey. And I like the line where he goes, we've had idiot kings before and ruthless kings before, but I don't think we've ever had a ruthless idiot king before.
Yeah, right.
So that's my favorite Tyrion moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to say, watching season 2, just every time Tyrion comes on as Hand of the King, I just get excited. It's my favorite part of the show. My favorite moment for Tyrion is when he tells Littlefinger, Pycelle, and various different versions of the same story about how he's going to marry his niece off to 3 different people. He tells one of them he's going to marry him off to Theon Greyjoy, another one to Dorne, to the Martells, and then another one off to, I believe, I don't remember what the last one was. But whatever. He tells them all 3 different versions to see which one runs back to, you know, kind of like to fish out the spy. You know, who's the mole? Who's the one who's running to Cersei with all the information? Because he knows he has a leak.
Right.
So he wants to know, okay, who's actually loyal to me and who's actually the snitch? And then you find out it's Pycelle. And then, you know, that's another great scene where him and that hill tribesman go in there and he says, chop off his manhood and feed it to the goats. And then the guy's like, we don't have any goats. He's like, well, improvise, you know. Great scene.
Well, not only that, too, he leaves the prostitute 1 coin and then looks at Pycelle and how old and disgusting he is. And he leaves him another. She leaves her another one.
Yeah,
He's like,
you weren't that, honey.
Yeah, I think you deserve more than one.
The fact that Peter Dinklage, if you watch the credits, I don't know whether it was season 2 or season 3, he's #1 billing in the show. Like, he was born to play the role.
He really was.
They knew. They said this. It's definitely going to be Peter Dinklage. Right? They knew before Peter Dinklage knew.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely going to have to stay with the Blackwater Bay scene, which, you know, they said was definitely the hardest scene to film in the entire show. And I can see why, but that one specific scene that comes to my mind is Tyrion is now realizing that, you know, he's going to have to get his hands dirty. And as clever as Tyrion is as a Lannister, he's not much of a fighter.
Right.
You know, and him slapping Joffrey is the extent of his violence. And now he's got to go out onto the battlefield. None of us know what to expect. And
Half man.
they think that, you know, they're starting to think they have this under control until they see the other side coming, running at them. And Tyrion is standing there like, oh, fuck. So you don't actually see the dynamics of that when there's a battlefield scene. But now you see Tyrion's face and somehow manage to see the humor in the fact that they're about to get bum rushed.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. And then, of course, there's the scene comes up where, you know, Tyrion gets axed, and I guess because he's half man, the guy doesn't get much of a shot in, and it doesn't go beyond Tyrion passing out.
At the beginning of that battle that he gives is just really cool.
Right.
You know, it's typical him. He's never been never been in the position of motivating troops before, but the speech that he gives is funny and motivating.
Right.
When there's nobody taking a leadership position in this city.
Right.
Right, because right before that speech, the Hound, you know, ran away because of the fire. You know, he can't handle fire. You know, bad childhood memories. And then Joffrey runs to his mother, like you actually said in your thing. And now he's stuck. Like, well, if I don't rally these troops, we're gonna get overrun. And you know, and it is sad. It makes you really sad at the end when you see that Tyrion just doesn't get the credit. And you know, his father Tywin gets all. He never gets the credit. And you know, we all know from watching it. You know, Tyrion's the one who saved that city.
Well, one thing that I have to say, you know, before I finish my thought is that I thought it was amusing that the person that basically saves Tyrion is Podrick.
Right.
You know, Podrick, we've all learned to now become a comical character in our minds, and we no longer see him as, you know, Tyrion's right hand anymore. Now we see him as Podrick from the brothel scene, and so him saving Tyrion is also another thing that was an interesting. Another
loyal character, like a loyal,
right.
You know, like kind of like that Davos kind of thing, like just this, you know, nobody special. You know, he's a distant cousin to, I guess, Sir Ilan Payne, but like, look at him. I mean, he saved Tyrion Lannister's life.
All right, our last two topics here are Dany topics. Let's start first with Dany's growth. Season 1, Dany goes from her brother's object to be given away to the wife of a king, you know, the Khaleesi. Season 2, she goes from being the wife of a king to being a leader in her own right, you know? And just want to talk about that growth, how she grows as a character.
Yeah, I mean, Dany's one of my favorites. I'm a big Targaryen fan. I think, you know, she really shows her leadership when she's confronted with the problem that they're stuck in the Red Waste and they approach Qarth and, you know, they come out to greet her. You know, she had that great idea, you know, you go north, you go northeast, you go whatever. They all go different directions. And luckily one of them actually finds a city on the horseback. And, you know, she's confronted by the 13. They're like, show me your dragons. She's like, no, let us in. We're dying out here, and you promised to have us. And they almost walked away, and she really came out of her shell and said, you know, I will come back and raise this city to the ground. I will burn it down, and really, like, you know, stands up for herself.
I will take what is mine with fire and blood.
Right. Well, that comes later, but
I'm saying it's, and go ahead.
Yeah, right. But you know, the fact that she stands up for her people, and then Zoran Doxos, I believe. I forgot. I think I said that right.
I have no idea.
The black dude does the blood oath, and you know, lets her in, and that's only because she really stood up for herself, I believe. And you know, I thought that was a moment where she really showed her growth as a character, not this meek, you know, girl. Now she's a leader of her people, you know, saving their lives.
I love how she teaches the dragons to breathe fire, you know, on command. Dracarys. You know, and her teaching, being a mother to the dragons, you know, her title, kind of teaching her how she can be a mother to her subjects, which we'll kind of see her start to do in season 3. and that, her relationship with the dragons encapsulates for me a lot of her growth as a character.
I don't know. I'm as everybody knows, I'm a huge Stark fan. I'm a huge Martell fan. But, for me, the Targaryens just don't do it for me. I'm going to have to be the contrarian here and say I'm not sold on it. I mean, because in season 2, which is the topic here, Dany is still a little girl. Her dragons are 10 inches big. So I just don't think that she has the muscle to back her attitude just yet. And it's already been seen. And, of course, maybe they're trying to show, like we had discussed earlier, we see this girl of, this Targaryen girl who's abused by her brother and now, essentially becomes mother of dragons after meeting Khal Drogo and, becoming Khaleesi and whatnot. But, I don't know. I'm not sold on the whole thing. I think that, when she gets to Karth, I think that they sort of put her in her place a little bit and say, your dragons are, little. They don't say that, but it's obvious. And heck, your people are half dead. So, yeah, bye, and that's the way that I portrayed them to see her. You're not there just yet kind of thing. And I don't know. Again, I think that there's going to be more to it with the Targaryens. And I don't think we've seen that unravel yet, but I'm not sold on Dany Targaryen yet. It's just not something I'm sold on just yet.
All right, last topic, House of the Undying. That is a really significant scene, kind of helps end the season a lot. What did you think about the scene? Do you think it showed anything about the future? What were your impressions? What do you think about the result of the scenes in the House of the Undying?
Well, I thought on the show, they kind of made the House of Undying just like where the Warlock Piapri, where his home base is, where the Warlocks study. And they really didn't come across as like a prophecy to me in the show. I thought it was more like...
The book makes much more of it being a prophecy. I still think you see, you don't hear about the 3 betrayals. You don't hear about, and these are things that be in the book, that she's going to be betrayed 3 times for 3 different reasons. And you don't hear about the 3 heads of the Targaryens and that one is missing. But I do think in the show, they show the snowy Iron Throne. And I think that's the touch of the prophecy that you're going to get. Does that mean destruction or ruin? Does it mean, she's going to be the combat the White Walkers or something like that? But I still think that scene's really important to the ultimate end of what's going on. It's a window into
could have something
where
to do with
she's
the
going to
Starks
be.
as well.
Absolutely.
Right, winter's coming, Jon Snow.
Something to do with what's going to be happening way down the road, beyond where the books are, beyond obviously where the show is.
Right, well, another scene is the one with Khal Drogo and the baby, where the baby's now a toddler. So, I don't know. For me, the scene wasn't that symbolic for me. I just didn't analyze the scene enough. It seemed to be a little bit on the annoying side. But in the same breath, I think that maybe the message to Dany was, you're not untouchable. And maybe the other message was, things aren't always what they seem.
Yeah.
Yet at the end of the scene, she's the one that shows the Warlocks that they're not what they think they are. They're not, because all the power, everyone's magic and power, comes from her dragons.
Seems to be.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting that, like, just in the show, I really didn't feel like it came off as a prophecy. I felt like it almost seemed like Piapri was getting in Dany's head. He knows what she really wants. He knows she really wants the Iron Throne, show the Iron Throne. He knows that, maybe from some kind of magic, he could see that, she really misses her Khal and the son. And I felt like it was almost like he was mind messing with her mind.
Playing on her
emotions. And she broke out. She said, no, when the sun sets in the east and all that. And he says, not going to happen. Walks away, breaks out of the dream sequence. Then we find out that, the dragons are tied up. And then she, obviously gets rid of Piapri. But I feel like it could have went either way with that. In the book, it's right in your face. Like, it's prophecy. Like, it's like almost like right in your face. Like, this is a prophecy. You're, they're saying, this will happen and this will happen. Very different feeling from the book.
Is she the one, and the House of Dying gets to this, is she the one that stands at the top at the end? When all this is done, 7 books in, 8 seasons in, when I'm 55 years old, is she the one that stands at the top of the mountain?
Tough to say.
I feel like she's going to be one of the people. I feel like there's another part to it. I just feel like there's more to it than just Dany. I feel like there'll be more that, or maybe she's a part of it. I feel like the Targaryens will be back in power, but I don't know if it's just going to be her. That's my thought.
All right, last topic is Game of Thrones Ascent and an alliance from Game of Thrones Ascent.
This week's plug on Game of Thrones Ascent is going to be the alliance called Stonedancers. They are a fairly new alliance, but by no means no new players of the game. They are seasoned players who started Stonedancers, pretty well known amongst us more prominent players that know each other here. They are a Targaryen fealty, but they are open to all fealties, as most of us are. We have to always respect the reincarnators, and we don't expect everybody to run out and become a dragon. So I have to say a lot of Stonedancers reminds me of myself. Banshee is who I am in direct contact with over at Stonedancers. Reminds me a lot of myself, leads a lot like I do. They basically do what they see fit as an alliance. They do what's best for the alliance and not what's, what everyone else is doing. They basically don't like to be the norm. They want to just do what is making everybody happy and making everybody comfortable in their gameplay. So if there's something that you think would work for you and maybe somewhere you feel you could fit in, then we'll be providing Stonedancers information. And, again, you're more than welcome to go ahead and contact Banshee and jump in her rook. And that's pretty much this for the week.
That's it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.